Welcome to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning. Really blessed to have a very special group of people with us this morning. We've got Team Rob, and Team Rob is Lori Moline, Quebec Gibbons, and Rob himself, Rob Partridge. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, this is quite a story. Let's start with Quebec and Rob. You guys have been friends a long, long time. Tell me about how far that goes back, and tell me a little bit about your friendship.
Well, since Quebec's the older brother, I'm going to let him answer first.
Yeah, Susie, it really goes back to when we were about 4 and 5 years old. We ended up meeting up at a McDonald's on Lincoln Way in Massillon. So we were like the only two kids in like the ball section where you can, hop in and throw a bunch of those like kind of like plastic balls at one another. So we were the only two kids in there. And I don't know why it was one day, but I decided to chuck a ball at this other boy that was in the section with me, and he decided to throw one back. So I was like, all right, cool. This kid seems kind of cool, and we just started really just kind of picking on each other. Nothing malicious, but just having a good time. And I think our moms were sitting outside. They're like, oh, you must be Quebec's mom, and oh, you must be Rob's mom. And they started talking, and by the time we got out, we were basically inseparable for the past 20-plus years.
So cool. Rob, a lot of our listening audience is going to recognize your name, Rob Partridge from the Massillon Tigers. Tell us a little bit about your time there.
Yeah, so Massillon was definitely a great place for me, and a place where I really learned how to be a great teammate and a leader. Honestly, I grew up wanting to be a Massillon Tiger ever since I realized that my dad was a coach, which I was like 5, 6 years old. One day he brought me out on the field, and I fell in love with the game, fell in love with the city and the team. And being the Massillon Tiger quarterback was definitely an honor, and building the camaraderie that we had and lifelong relationships.
You had some very successful times there. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we actually ended up going to the state semifinal and playing against Cleveland Glenville. Unfortunately, we lost, but we definitely had a great ride, and I had the opportunity to play under Alex Wood, who coached in the NFL with the Bengals.
Yeah.
And I learned so much under him, and he's definitely been a huge mentor in my life. We ended up going in the regional final and playing Canton McKinley, our rival, and we ended up beating them 10-7, which then we played Cleveland Glenville. And it was definitely an honor to suit up in the orange and black and develop the relationships that I now can call lifelong relationships and lifelong friendships.
Mm-hmm. Your story, your life story takes a turn I'm sure you were not expecting, no one was expecting. Life sometimes hands us things that we just never saw coming, and I'll just let you tell it as much as you would like to.
Absolutely. So at the time of my injury, I was working at Indiana University in the athletic department, working with student athletes, developing leadership and professional skills. And I happened to go down to Atlanta for my grandma's 90th birthday. On the way back, I was 15 minutes away from my apartment in Indiana, and something popped up out of the left side of my car. I swerved a little bit, and then my car took a drastic 90-degree angle and flipped up 3 times, and I ended up on the other side of the highway. And right from then, I was paralyzed from my neck down. I went into immediate surgery, and then had another surgery 2 days later, and it was just very surreal because as my parents walked in, I started crying and busting out in tears. I thought I failed them, and I felt I disappointed them. And right when the nurse practitioner walked in, my first question was, "Am I ever going to walk again?" And she told me not very likely, which was kind of a cold response, but
yeah, that's harsh.
It also really the fire was reborn in me to start trying to walk again, and I ended up going back to Indiana with my girlfriend at the time, and it was a hard situation because not only was I redeveloping physically, but mentally, emotionally, and I ended up going to Louisville at Fraser Rehab, and ended up going to rehab there for a month, was discharged, went back to Indiana, Eventually, I found my time down here in Florida and reconnected with some friends that helped make it possible for me to come down here last summer. And then we ran out of resources to stay down here. So I ended up going back home to Ohio, and it was definitely a humbling experience because last September was very rough, and it was probably my darkest moments. And luckily enough, Lori in Quebec came to my rescue and definitely said, "Hey, you're not in this alone. What can we do to help?" And that's when Lori asked me, what is a touchdown? What does the Super Bowl look like to you?" And I thought about it for a second, and I said, going to Florida, becoming a resident, and training at Barwis. And we ended up going to Jeff David's office and really getting him on Team Rob. And between the three of them, Quebec, Jeff, and Lori, they made it possible for me to start this dream of re-walking again down here in Florida and training with Barwis, my trainer, Nick Lucius, and
Awesome.
I made great strides. So I'm definitely grateful and forever in gratitude to Team Rob and everybody else who has contributed.
I want to swing back to that time in the hospital when you said your first thoughts were that your parents, that you had let them down in some way. Let me know that did not happen. You know they never would feel that way, right? How did they communicate that to you so that you knew, okay, this is not an issue? My goodness, no.
You know, it was just a constant resurgence of letting me know that I'm loved and that they're proud of me.
Yes.
That I'm not just my physical body, and they're proud of the man I became and man I've become, and as a professional, as a person, and constantly just being there for support and love.
Even now more, seeing what you are overcoming is so inspiring to, I'm sure, every member of your family as well as the community around you. You know, why is it always athletes? I'm thinking of Johnny Erickson. I'm thinking of so many athletes that have everything to look forward to and everything they've trained for, and then suddenly it's a different kind of challenge. And I'm wondering if it almost takes somebody with an athlete's fortitude to be able to face these kinds of challenges. What's your thoughts on that?
I think you're absolutely correct. To kind of like push yourself through obstacles and adversity, you need resilience and determination, and it's constant grind, and being able to overcome the odds and really push through any adversity, whether that's adversity in everyday life or adversity that happens monthly or yearly. It's a constant struggle, but at the same time, it's a challenge, and how you rise to that challenge, it determines who you are as a person, as an athlete, or as a professional. And having a great team around you is essential. You can't go through life alone, and the better your team is, the more likely you are to succeed.
Well, let's talk to some more members of that team. Lori, let's hear from you. You really jumped on board with Team Rob and got this idea, first of all, for you said, this needs to be a movie. We need to do a documentary. But then before that, let's help this young man. Tell me about that.
Yeah, you know, Susie, actually it was kind of the reverse. Rob reached out to my son, who runs a video production company down in Columbus, and Rob and my son graduated the same year. My son went to Perry, and so they already knew each other. And, you know, Rob was getting this firsthand experience of, you know, what I was running up against in the spinal cord injury world in terms of, you know, difficult to access the, you know, medical opportunities that were out there, and equity issues and things like that. And he really wanted to kind of shine a light on that and become an activist in that world. And so he had reached out to my son, and I have a background in producing as well. And my son had a lot on his plate and said, "Mom, you know, I really want to help him." And I said, "Well, let me meet Rob and talk to him a little bit, and maybe I can kind of help flesh out his ideas." And so Rob and I started this relationship back last March, and I was actually recovering from open heart surgery, so I had some time where I was home, and we just started talking. And, you know, the more I started hearing how articulate he was in explaining his ideas and his goals, and everything that he had been through prior to the injury, and almost how it seemed to be preparing him for, this new game that he never knew he would be playing. It just was so compelling. And Rob was in Indiana at the time and was planning to come back for Quebec's wedding, actually, in June. So my son came up from Columbus, and we had Rob come to my house, and we just did this on-camera interview with him about his story. And we thought we were just going to put together a little trailer and maybe be able to get some other people interested in the documentary. But that interview was so powerful, and he was so articulate. And my son and I just said, boy, we got to do something bigger with this. And so that was kind of the road we were going down. But when Rob returned from Florida in September, which he was saying was that really difficult time for him, and we reconnected, I started really kind of seeing, behind the curtain of what he was really facing and what his family was really facing. 2 years into this injury, they're doing everything they can to help him. But you need a team of other people around you. I mean, you can't do this by yourself as an individual or as a family. You have to have a supportive network around you, helping you find the resources and to do the things you want to do. And so, our gears switched from, producing this documentary to actually, getting Rob what he needed to be able to achieve what he wanted to do personally in terms of his rehab and recovery.
One of those people that he needed on his team also was his lifelong friend since they were about 4 years old, and that was Quebec. Quebec, what is your part in this, in helping your friend and coming alongside of him at this important time in his life?
I mean, essentially, it's just, what you said is just continuing to come alongside him. We're only 1 year's difference in age, so I think we have a mutual lifespan, a mutual respect for one another. So, whether it is calling him every day and just having brother-to-brother conversations, whether it's, when he came home in September, it was just, hey, I'm coming over at least once a week. We'll play some Xbox. I'll go out and get an adaptable controller for you so you can still play Madden, and, making sure that he knows that whatever is going to happen, we're going to overcome this circumstance, and I'm going to be right there alongside of him. So to have Lori and Jeff come alongside of us as well was massive. With being a lifelong friend, my parents were very active, and what can we do to make his circumstances better? What can we do to help the Partridge family overcome this? If it's building a ramp at the house, let's do that. If it's doing some painting and some redesign in his bedroom, let's do that. What can we do? So it was really a Gibbons family team effort. And then to have Lori and Jeff come alongside has really put some wind in our sails. And, I'll be forever grateful, to them as well to come alongside and help my brother out. You will hear me say it all the time. Rob is my brother. He will forever be my brother. So I was going to do whatever I could to help him mentally, physically, emotionally stay sharp, stay in shape, and know that he has the strength to overcome this, and he won't be doing it alone.
Yes. There's a GoFundMe page. Is that right?
There is, we've really been grateful. We've had over almost $5,000 worth of donations now. And so the GoFundMe, if somebody would go to GoFundMe.com, they can search Stand Up for Rob or Stand for Rob Partridge, and they'll be able to find the video. We kind of put a teaser of the documentary out there, as well as dollars that we're looking for to help Rob kind of get himself launched, essentially. And Rob, maybe you can share kind of what your goals are down in Florida, and just in terms of the big picture of your life.
Absolutely. I want to set up a life down here as independent as possible, and get back to where I was professionally, and be able to help out people, both in the spinal cord injury and just the world in general. Constantly, we're faced with adversity as people, and again, it's about having the right people around you and the right mindset. So I want to be able to impact the world in a positive way. I think in the next few months, being able to transition to the Orlando area, to Next Step Orlando, and continuing my training there would be great. And that's definitely an attainable goal that we've constantly worked towards. And I want to be able to live in my own apartment or live in my own housing, and continue being a 28, 29-year-old young professional and constantly improving myself.
Yes, awesome. We're speaking with Team Rob Partridge, Quebec Gibbons, Lori Moline. We'll be back after these words. You're listening to Our Community. Welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas with you this morning, visiting with Lori Moline, Quebec Gibbons, and Rob Partridge, all part of Team Rob, and finding out more about this remarkable young man and this amazing story. Again, go to GoFundMe. You can go to a search of either Stand Up for Rob or Stand for Rob Partridge and make a donation. I'm sure any size would be very appreciated and appreciated. And looking forward to being able to come aside you with the financial assistance as well. And we want to expand Team Rob to include this whole community. You gave so much joy to our community, Rob, as you were playing for the Massillon Tigers. It's an opportunity for us to give back a little bit to you as well. Let me go back to those. Looking at what you face right now, what would you say you gained as being a member of that team and that very successful team, those very successful teams, and how that kind of fed into what you are facing today?
I think the number one I gained is number one thing I gained is confidence. Confidence in seeing that I can do this, that I can fight this adversity and this obstacle and continue living a productive, independent life. It's not going to be easy, and Lori in Quebec definitely helped fill that in and be able to be positive influence and positive forces in my life. So I think the number one thing I gained is lifelong friendship, lifelong love, and being able to constantly push myself to the limit and see the light at the end of the tunnel.
You heard some very discouraging words. I'm surprised that a nurse would even speak them, but it turns out that it's worked for good, that when you ask, will I walk again, and she says it's not likely, that lit a fire in you, isn't it? Because you at one point were quadriplegic, and you've made some great strides physically. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. So at the time of my injury, I couldn't move anything from my neck down, which constituted me as a quadriplegic technically. So since then, I am able to raise my left arm unassisted, straight above my head. My right arm's coming along. I'm still trying to be able to throw balls at Quebec.
That's a goal.
Then if I'm laying down on my back, one thing I've learned down here at the Barwis Center is I can move my legs in and out so long as I can feel my hips and really engage different parts of my body and be able to move my legs in and out. I can do 20 sit-ups to a certain extent, which is great because if you look at the raw data and the numbers, not a lot of quadriplegics can achieve that, and that's something that was told to me that I wouldn't be able to do. So it's constantly being able to defy the odds and listen to positive influences in my life and continually push myself.
Yeah, that's got to make a difference. You said it's not just the physical coming back, it's coming back mentally and emotionally as well. How is that going?
I think it's a everyday work in progress, and phone calls from Lori, phone calls from Jeff, phone calls from Quebec, and people who are very close to me constantly reinforce that, Rob, you're getting better every day, and you sound better, and you can do this, you're loved. So I think this injury is very physical, but it's more so mental and emotional. Being able to see the positive in your life and being able to build on that and constantly get better every day. You either get better or you get worse. And I've been blessed enough to be able to get better every day and call back home to people, friends, family, and share my progress with them. And I think it's definitely important to continually do that.
You've already inspired so many other people with the work you're doing in Florida. Tell me some of their stories. What are you getting to see as far as this seed planting into other lives at the same time?
Oh my gosh, I'm surrounded by great people every day, and not just quadriplegics or paraplegics, but athletes and normal everyday people, and hear their unique story and how they overcome adversity and how they overcome obstacles. it's definitely a blessing to be able to be surrounded by people who are positive and facing their own unique battles and really studying and seeing how they approach their battles and obstacles and how they are resilient and have the determination to be better than yesterday. I talked to somebody yesterday who was a paraplegic, and he was actually able to stand up when he was told that he was a complete spinal cord injury. And it just kind of brought tears to my eyes to be able to say, wow, in the past 2-3 years, you've overcome so much, and you're definitely a positive light, not only in my life, but in others' lives.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's got to help you all encourage each other, yes?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's like a one big football team going back to the football days, and each individual player in their position go from where they started, to where they are now, and where they will go in the future. It's a beautiful thing, and it's definitely it's an emotional thing. You cry tears of joy when you see one person achieve a goal that they set X amount of weeks ago, to now that they reached that milestone, and now they can set a new goal.
Where's the documentary? Where is that right now? Is that still happening? Are you still working on that? Or has that been pushed aside for a second? Or is that part of the GoFundMe? Or bring me up to speed there.
Yeah, so there's basically kind of a 7-minute mini documentary that's on the GoFundMe that kind of hits the highlights of, Rob's journey before his accident, and kind of how, it formed his mindset that is allowing him to kind of take on what he's got going on right now. But eventually we'll run a Kickstarter campaign, my son and I, and kind of get the funding to kind of keep going with it. There's so many more layers that we can peel down, and Rob's transition to higher college, and, his development there as a leader off the field, that I'm really excited about kind of exploring through this documentary and talking with some of his professors there and things like that. So, but, our immediate goal is to just use it to help tell his incredible story and get him the support he needs now so he can start, transitioning to these next steps, and then continue to document it, because this is only, really the middle, the beginning of the story. And I think, we're going to see Rob do is going to be an amazing, incredible thing that I don't think any of us fully understand now. I expect him to be speaking nationally. I really think he's going to be a force, and I'm really excited to kind of be following that along. And I do want to add, how incredible his family is, and that's what I'd like to add into that documentary as well. Their dedication to him from the moment he had his accident to helping him, with caregiving, helping him get to the places that he needed to go with the resources that they have, while keeping everybody else in the family afloat, has been, really an incredible part of the story. And we want to make sure we capture that in the documentary as well.
Oh, my goodness, yes. And something about a documentary using the real people, getting to meet the real people rather than trying to make it a drama about something. What a difference. Rob, just the impact. I agree. I'm with Lori. The impact you are going to have nationally and beyond is exciting to think about. First person I want you to talk to, though, before these crowds that you're going to be speaking in front of, is that nurse. Have you ever gotten a chance to meet with her again and show her how you're doing?
Absolutely. So the nurse that said that to me in the hospital, we've actually had a great relationship, and I kind of thank her for saying not very likely instead of giving a numeric a statement like, you have a 1% chance of walking again. Mm-hmm. I thank her for saying not likely, because it's a little softer than saying 1%. When you hear a number in the raw data, you're like, oh my gosh, this is never going to happen again. Mm-hmm. But the nurse practitioner has definitely been she was a huge deal in my life when I lived in Indiana, and anything that I needed, she was there. Kind of developed into a friendship, and constantly looking out for me, and anything that I needed at my apartment, she was there to help me out with. And also, she was a positive light in my life, in that, hey, I know I said not likely, but you've been doing not likely things all of your life, Going from high school to playing college football. If you tell the average high school football player not likely, I mean, that's just the truth of the matter, you know.
Yeah.
And being able to graduate from college, you're constantly defying the odds. So I think when she said not likely, I think she was being truthful at the same time having a human side to the numeric value, you know?
Yeah. Like the odds may be against it. However, there's always that however. And there's always a but God, but with God, there's amazing. Just watch what happens. Where has faith played in all of this for you?
I think God has definitely played a huge role in my life, especially since this injury, because when you're looking at the numbers, you're like, there's no hope, but you're constantly looking for hope in other places. And I think, especially at night, when I'm sitting there alone or in my thoughts, I feel a warmth around me, and that's both friends, family, and God. You know, God's within man, and He definitely helps me every day in my struggles. And He's my number one fan as well. You know, so I think as we go through this journey, and we're constantly looking for solace and different fuels for strength. He's that fuel for strength with me, and I get emotional talking about it. But I think God's definitely been a huge catalyst in my life when it comes to believing in myself and believing in the power of others. And I'm forever grateful and blessed.
What are your dreams? What do you want to see come from all of this? Let's dream with you.
That's a great question. That's a question that I continue talking about with Lori in Quebec. Susie, I want to help others. I want to inspire others to be their best selves and to continually help people, whether that be public speaking or helping people launch their business or in the football community, telling that person who was cut, hey, like, yes, it's a setback, but it's not forever. You know, I want to help people inspire others and be their best selves.
Well, we want to help you. We want to be part of Team Rob. Everybody go to GoFundMe and do a search for Stand Up for Rob or Stand for Rob Partridge. You'll find it there, and you can participate as well. We also want to give a shout out to another member of Team Rob. Yes, Jeff David, part of this as well. Yes. And thank you so much, Rob Partridge, Quebec Gibbons, Lori Moline, and Rob. God bless you. We're so excited for you. We are on your team as well. And thank you for coming back and sharing all of this with our community today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for giving me the time and attention. I greatly appreciate it. And if you want to be part of Team Rob, please, the more the merrier. And definitely, I think Quebec and Lori has helped me so much in establishing what it is that we need to do and helping Team Rob really take off.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you, Susie.